Welcome back everybody to episode 4 of my Love Hurts series. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at, I'd say, probably a very faithful adaptation of a classic horror novel from like the early 1900s or late 1800s. This film came out in the 90s. It stars Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, and a few other ones. Probably the biggest surprise to me was the main character from The Princess Bride being in it. He's almost unrecognizable in it. And if you don't know what this film is about, it's about a centuries-old vampire, Count Dracula, who comes to England to seduce his barrister Jonathan Harker's fiancée Mina Murray and inflict havoc in a foreign land. While this isn't the first adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's definitely the most faithful to the book. The original one from 1932 was actually based on a stage play which was adapted from the book. It's not exactly adapted very close to the actual novel. I got a bit to say about it. It opens on an ominous view of what I think seems to be a church in Constantinople, and just the individual shots, the music, the way it was edited just makes it feel at home in a gothic movie like this. The rest of the opening uniquely shot, and I felt it was almost comic book like or graphic novel, which is something that you don't normally see in films. Adds a little bit of surrealism to the film, which the film has a lot of. There's this cool peacock transition, which I think it's from the comic book intro to something else. Another cool touch that might be surprising to some people is that the narration in the film is written like journal entries. Those of you that know the actual novel, the novel story is told through various journal entries, newspaper articles, telegrams, and stuff like that. It's a uniquely formatted book, and honestly, I haven't been able to actually finish it. I should probably do that at some point. I just felt like the way that the narration was, it was a very nice touch and a further thing that they got right from the book. It was very well shot. The visual effects somehow make sense, even though some of them look fake, and the one that I have here is the flames at the entrance to Dracula's castle. They look very fake, even for an early 90s film. It's almost as if they didn't bother trying to blend it in. They just placed this stock video over top, did some keying on it, and made it look like it was almost like a holographic type thing, which worked. A cool thing I noticed rewatching it is some of Dracula's appearances at the castle, they play with the shadows a little bit. What I mean by that is his shadow is actually moving when he's not moving, stuff like that, and kind of adds a little eeriness to it. I guess you could say a callback to some early horror films. One that I think it was in was, they might have had it in the original Dracula film, but I can't remember. I know they had it in The Mummy, which I'll get to that review later. They also did it in a film called Cat People. The way that his shadow moves, it's almost like his shadow has a life of its own, which is very interesting. Everything in the film feels very grand, and I can't think of a better way for them to actually do the film than do it like on this grand scale. The transitions, like there's a bunch of match cuts and stuff like that that are really just the way that they did it. It just works so well in the film. Beautifully edited. Everything just flows the way it should. Well paced and all that. Even the editing adds more of a surreal element to it. I found the film to be perfectly lit, the lighting to be very good, and not really any scenes that stand out that weren't like properly lit. Framing is awesome. Everything just kind of makes the film feel timeless in a way. Like, it doesn't feel like a 90s film at all. Like, it feels definitely like a period piece that's set in its own like little bubble. So no matter when you look at it, it just works. One thing I felt was really cool was, and I actually had to go back and look at this because I wasn't entirely sure if that actually happened in the version that I watched. There's a choppy camera when Count Dracula walks through London the first time, and it's almost like, the best way I could describe it is like a film camera, like an 8mm film camera being projected on a screen, and you can like of a film like from the 20s or something like that, which has that choppiness to it because it's an early camera. I felt it worked very well, and it was very unique, and it kind of stood out, and then it kind of just smoothed out naturally into the first appearance of Dracula walking on the streets. You could definitely say there's elements of the film that are almost dreamlike, and the edit is actually fairly mesmerizing at times. Definitely something that is not normal in some films. Well, in a lot of films, it's not like you're just watching it and you just get lost in the film. Every performance in the film is very well acted. There's no issues. During the editing process, something sometimes happens in films, and that's juxtaposition of certain scenes that are complete opposites of each other, but it creates an emotion with it. So there's a wedding in the film between Jonathan Harker and Mina. The way that they decided to edit it was, I'm not sure how to actually word it properly, but they cross-cut it with scenes of Dracula cursing Mina's friend Lucy. For whatever reason, it just eerily fits together. I don't know how to explain it. The music just blends it together. The shots do like the happiness and then like the sadness or whatever. It just somehow blends together to create something unique and cool. The creature and gore effects are really well executed, and surprisingly they've aged well. The film's almost like it's a time period bubble, capturing a moment in time, but at the same time feels timeless. It's definitely hard to explain. It's much like how Back to the Future is a timeless film, even though it deals with time travel. Keeping with the theme of the series, the version of love that's in the film is everlasting love, and I would say the main character is probably Dracula. Everybody else is like side characters. The actual story is Dracula coming back or just staying around. I think that's how it is, and he just wants to be with the love of his life that he had back when he was in the army and stuff like that. And yeah, it's very much focused on him, but it does have these other elements that without them the story wouldn't actually make sense. Yeah, the topic of this film would probably be everlasting love. Overall, it was a really good film, well directed and all that, so I'd probably give it probably a 9 because of how like timeless the film is or feels. Just really well done. Netflix has it, I think. YouTube has it, and you can always get a physical copy of it. Hope you like the review, and stay tuned for the other ones I have coming up. See ya.